Demonic angel. Today I'm going to talk about astral projection. I've had several people talking about it, asking tips and suggestions, and Black Magick Sorcerer said, well, why don't you do a video on this topic? I'm interested. So I thought, the synchronicities are lining up. We have an interest in this, so yeah, here it goes. I did make a list here on my computer. It's really not in any particular order, but I just thought if it pertained to that, then I'll just talk about it. But yeah, very funny when people all want to talk about the same kind of subject. I really like that kind of synchronicity. So the first one I want to go over is probably something that you guys hear me complain about, bitch about, rant about all the time on the channel, but it is very basic. It is based, even the ancient Egyptians, they deliberately did things to decalcify their pineal gland so that they could astral travel, perform more magic better, mummify. So that was the objective, especially for people, in the community who, played music for the courts, did divination and things like that. That you literally needed to have your third eye cleansed. And it's not about, I'm not talking anything about psychedelics. That's cleansing your third eye in this whole other way. That can be achieved through psychedelics, but on a day-to-day basis. Essentially, fast food in particular, things that you sometimes buy at the store, but the biggest culprit is fast food in particular, restaurant food that's mass produced. They're all they contain a lot of ingredients that are used to embalm people. That's why McDonald's does not decay, which is really gross. And in anthropology, we got to look at a guy who he died of complications from diabetes. But the reason that it was so gross was that it took him like a day and a half longer to really start to decompose as compared to some of the other corpses who died at the same time, because that was his diet, was nothing but fast food. And that's gross. That's not natural, so that was like gross and fascinating to me. But what it's really doing in these large amounts, you're not going to be able to get away from it completely. Also, stress will do this to you. It will just make calcium build in your joints, and even on your pineal gland. That's why it's decalcifying the pineal gland. It's literally like hard water calcium that grows on your pineal gland. And your pineal gland does regulate hormones, but it also has to do with the way you perceive things. So to keep it as open of a mind as possible, and of course it also coincides with being healthy, by flushing these chemical wastes out of the body. One of them's called guanidine. I'll link some Dr. Eric Berg info for you guys. I get my information from a lot of places, but I really find him a very fascinating person to listen to. He's strictly just a medical doctor, but he tells it like it is. So this will create this balance in your body. So stress will calcify it. All these nasty garbage chemicals that are in easy fast food, which, I mean, that's also why they're addictive. I mean, that sodium, high amounts of sodium, I mean, dry you out. What drying you out just does is that it makes it so that you're so calcified you can't really absorb things. So you can take a multivitamin, but you're not going to be able to absorb it if there's too much calcium blockage. And then what I do, and honestly, I think that trying to keep my third eye open and clean really does help me just be healthy, and that helps me keep a better perspective, a more level-headed perspective in many ways. And then kind of, I would say, able to go into more of a trance when needed. So it's really works in my favor, so that I feel much more in control in general of my own consciousness. I'll just dilute apple cider vinegar, maybe a tablespoon, in a glass of water and drink it about twice a day. That's all you need. And it replaces, for us older people, well, anybody over the age of 30, I'm 33, you're losing stomach acid through your urine. So when you think heartburn, it's because of something like, oh, I burped up too much acid. It's too much. It's not enough. So you don't have enough acid to digest your food, and then that valve at the top near your throat, it can't close because that actually requires stomach acid to properly close it, which will only happen through proper digestion. And many of your neurotransmitters are made in your stomach more than they are made in your brain. So, if you want to take care of your perception and the way you think, it starts with your stomach. When I was younger, and I started to perceive spirits and dead people as just outside of myself, as feelings. Well, I should say, outside of my own, not me, but it's still happening in my mind. But it would feel like this presence, and the information like that I get in general, like how a person died, the really hard stuff. It hits me in the stomach. I know it. It's that gut feeling. That's where the real brains, are. And this is true of whatever kind of body you have. It's just that your stomach is very important to the way you think, and that other things that really do help your body's pH. So for you to retain more of your stomach acid. Apple cider vinegars, the fibers in it are prebiotics, which feed probiotics. So that if you just do probiotics, but they don't really have any fibers to feed on, that's really not going to do too much for you. But then having yogurt and apple cider vinegar, that's like a feast for your belly. And all this helps you think better. Lemon, cut up a lemon, have lemon water. Drink some types of bitters that are really liver cleansers, like dandelion. That'll help draw toxins out of the body, and even things that like calcium that are built up can get built up in the pineal gland. It can also get built up at different, you get joint pains. Sometimes that's actually, most of the time, it's calcium blockages. So all those things are kind of intermingled, but the big reason that we're interested is for keeping the pineal gland clean. It makes it so that the more you practice the occult, the more that the easier it is to get into trance states, to astral project, to accomplish things, to direct your will. Because if your body's just, off, it takes more time. You just feel like you're behind, you know, you might not have the energy. So, you know, that's and you can go all out with this or not. I really don't too much, but I mean, probably by the time that I'm 35, I probably will follow like a ketosis diet when I'm ready, because it really is like one of the best things for your body. Because every time it's like, okay, once a week you eat junk food, whatever, right? And it feels really good to eat it. But since I cook most of my own meals, and I've gotten that level of health better by just doing these couple of different things. It hits me hard. It's almost like a hangover. So I'm going to slowly cut those things out of my life because tastes good, feels really good to eat it. But I think that's becoming more of a young person's thing, because I care way more about the way I feel than the sugar high of a young person. Anyway, so that's my big speech so far. And ancient Egyptian people did this. Consuming raw garlic, that'll help clean you up pretty good. Lots of B vitamins, that sticky stuff that is raw garlic. Now, when you're starting off, go slower. You're gonna vomit, diarrhea. It's a real cleanser, and then also make your breath smell. But the more you do it, the less your breath will smell. Sometimes I'll eat an entire bowl of garlic a day. Sometimes half a bowl, whatever. And then I'll go brush my teeth, and but you will never know, because I've gotten that tolerance. Almost like one of my new friends, his name's Chilimancer, and he eats really hot things, and he's actually got a great channel. I'll link his channel. But just the same idea of building tolerance. He builds tolerance, to peppers like habaneros, to just try to see, the spiciest crap that he can absolutely eat. But this is spicy in a different way. Hey, Chilimancer, if you haven't done this, you have to try it, okay? I mean, this is a different kind of spicy. This is, but I mean, it still is. It still is why people think of garlic as spicy. I don't mess around with it really. I just chew it up in a few pieces, and then when it's small enough, I'll swallow it down with a glass of water. All that sticky stuff is really good, and all those straight organic vitamins. It's an antiviral, things like that. So once again, very good. So practicing the classic techniques of Western occultism. I'm going to also link, I was just listening. Yeah, I'll link his, it's like an hour podcast thing. He's deceased now, but Robert Anton Wilson. He was a mystic, agnostic, left-hand path kind of a person. And he talks about these things. And he says, well, when you're getting into things, just practice the basics of Western occultism. What are the basics? So those are, to enter trance states. And this goes for astral projection too, because if you become, adept at any of these things, then that'll really help. But rocking back and forth, sitting in a completely dark room, because that sensory deprivation, every time there's lights, if there's music, if there's all these other layers of sense that you have to pay attention to, then your mind will just, naturally focus on that. And it's just all noise to your mind. So deprive the senses if you can, and then you'll be able to focus more on that will and attention and astral projection. Rock back and forth. I really actually like that one. It makes it's really, if I need to go from feeling normal to, just like the other day, I needed to do a reading on a guy for whatever reason I decided it was important. I just did that kind of like close my eyes, and it just creates that right away, that trance state for me. So those are really good ones. Robert Anton Wilson also talks about how we're just always in our reality tunnels. So whatever your, daily reality kind of is, if you want to get good at astral projection, just kind of break it up. Like for example, try to learn a new language, or if you haven't ridden a bicycle in many years, try to do it again. Just do something that puts your brain out of your comfort zone. That's what I tell my friends who speak more than one language. Hey, you're smart. You're way smarter than me, because, your mind is forced to kind of think that through, because there's not exact words for that translate. I mean, sometimes it's easy to just explain things, but sometimes that's not, and so you're constantly like having to use your mind to relate it, in cultural gaps and those kinds of terms. So that makes, it forces you to look at reality in a different way, and it's very good for you. But it can be something simple. Anything classic that makes you think outside of your own box. Another note of interest, kind of circling back to my health rant side of this, is if at night you have an alarm clock that has blue, digital numbers on it, take it, turn it face down, turn blue night lights off. White lights are okay, especially if they're really small, but blue lights actually are they emit the same frequency as middle of the day daylight. So that will actually wake you up a lot at night, because your brain, it senses that. And that'll really mess up your ability to consciously do any of these astral projections as a magician. Well, it will just plumb make you feel a little crazy and tired. But you want to keep the circadian rhythm in some healthy way. If you do night shift, it's you can take low dosages of melatonin, but same idea. Sleep in blackness if possible. Including turning off all of blue lights, because it sounds crazy, but it's totally true. I'll even link an article about that if you feel like reading some science. So one of the other ways too, let's say you're new to magic and you just want to astral project, but now you're going to start with that shadow work and the spirit guides we're talking about. If you want to get a little creative, try to make a servitor after you've done some shadow work. I actually created a few of them when I was younger, and I did dismiss, as basically consume. I consumed all of them back inside of into my, and it basically I reintegrated them into me. Two were just kind of there wasn't much of a passion. It was just kind of giving it a try. But a third one that I named Sanut, that's what the dream vision told me his name was, kind of thing. Or I should say that was just the name that came to my mind. I kind of went all out there as a guy with a suit and tie, and he almost looked like a digital guy. And he almost had like a black and white movies with a Lego look to him. Like he didn't really look too human, but I was able to use him for some basic things, like to help heal my friend in this case. And I just, I probably saw him a few times when before I would do rituals, I would imagine, and draw him to me. But I eventually just I just decided to stick more with working with the Goetia and other pantheons like Egyptian, because I got more and more drawn to the Goetia and Satanism, but it was still a really fun experiment, and I recommend it to like baby occultists, just because, you know, you can build this thing that will do a lot for you. I have a video on servitors. I will link that too, just in case you guys are, you know, interested in any of this stuff. So now comes the fun part, I guess, where, and then, you know, another thing is like, in the course of actually having this channel, the interest in astral projection has been awesome. So I started kind of, you know, thinking, of course, and going, okay, well, I think, you know, I have my own experiences here, and I think that might have to do with being a hereditary witch. I'm not, you know, but I wonder how other people experience it. So it really seems to me that people experience astral projection in two ways. Usually, a person who's not a hereditary witch or an occultist, I would say an active occultist is somebody who does rituals or ceremonies on a fairly regular basis, because that's still, you don't have to be a psychic, but you know, if you do that, it does open you up. I mean, you can definitely open yourself up to this. But most people, they'll think of something like, let's say, you know, you like to go to the gym. So now think about yourself, like you're at the gym later, and you're thinking about, oh boy, I can't wait to wipe all the sweat off of me and go shower. But you're still working out right at the gym. Most people think of themselves, they don't see a body, but they just feel the action of wiping. They imagine that action of wiping themselves down. So they're not really seeing in what is called an etheric body. They're just, you know, feeling. This is sensory to them in this way. Not so much that it's sensory, it feels good, you're connected to the senses, but it's just what the function of the senses. You know, or if you're like, it's a long day at work and you want to go home and drink a beer, you imagine, not really the taste so much usually of it, but just the relaxing part. Oh, kicking up your legs, and then I'm gonna do this. So that's how most people see themselves. So they really aren't even imagining an astral body, but that's okay. I mean, it is definitely, one thing I'll say is, for whatever reason, if you experience that way of astral projecting, it's totally normal. And this is astral projection. This is still your astral body. It's just you're not seeing, you know, somebody outside of you. This is, you know, but it's really it's normal. So, you know, nothing to worry about. I've seen this in other occultists, psychics, sensitive people, empaths, really. So it's been a real fun kind of case study for me personally, like going, who sees things this different way. But a lot of you know, people, as I mentioned, witches I talk to, they'll say, oh, when I think about myself, same scenario. Let's do a same scenario. You're at the gym, and now, you know, you're gonna think forward to the cool down, and you wipe yourself down, all that fun shit. Well, this person instead will imagine what their body looks like. So it's like you looking at yourself in a mirror and watching yourself do these actions. That would be my best way to put it. Speaking of mirror, scrying is another good way to achieve astral projection, but it is for an advanced person. I think people can really hurt themselves with scrying if they're not ready, so it's not a big recommendation. But you really can see, if you look into a mirror long enough, and you kind of let your attention drift, you'll notice that your facial expressions will kind of do things that you're not really doing, and it kind of takes on that astral body of its own. And so that can be a way to really spend a night with your astral self. But I use it to fine tune how I astral project, deliberately scrying to increase my psychic abilities. That's for the advanced. But you imagine, yourself outside yourself. Now, so it's like, okay, you're that person in the mirror. Most people still say, okay, well, what do you look like? And it's usually very, very similar to the way people look in real normal life, except that they might look a little bit more handsome than they are in real life, or maybe skinnier, or maybe they're more confident. Like, I even talked to this one guy who, very nice, classic kind of guy, but the way he imagines himself, I do think he's an empath. He would be, rocking some 80s hair and, jewelry and all this stuff, very confident, whereas opposed to his real life was a little bit more, introverted and reserved. So, but it's still, it usually people who are working on themselves, who do, come with do have that self-love, will see some kind of positive, they'll see themselves in some kind of positive way. But for the most part, astral bodies look very similar to the way we all look now. Now, if you are, well, I don't know who else experiences this actually. I don't think that I've ever talked to anybody who has a similar claim. But I can imagine what people look like in their last life. But I mean, most of the time I can also see like, oh, what did they look like? The way they project themselves now. But I'm more accurate with past lives. And I'm not sure if that, I mean, it must have something to do with me remembering my past life, because once I accepted that, then I can tap into that for other people. So, my friend, like Magick Sorcerer, was like, okay, so you want to talk about what you looked like in your last life. Well, basically, I was a little bit taller, so I'm like 5'2" now, but I used to probably be 5'6", 7, and I can just, because I could see my own astral body in this way that's probably unique, because it's like almost like experiencing being with a dead person or a ghost, except it's like it really looks a lot like me, but it still is at the same time distinct. And I could choose to become that. I could choose to tap into that for information, like I have. But I see her, meaning me, all the time. Taller. I would probably say maybe not as girlishly attractive. I mean, even though I lived to be 100 years old, but I was hoping for, being, attractive or whatever. I know that because of, I would say that it's not because I'm a vain person, but because in my last life and this life, there's been that period of time when I've been young in both of my lives where I thought that looks like the way that I looked was all that mattered. And I obviously don't believe, I really don't believe that at all. In fact, I'm like, what if I was ugly? You know, it's like, it doesn't have anything to do with who I am. It would just be, it's just because I'm attractive, you know, people might be nicer to me or like what I say, but it's like, well, what if I was ugly? But, you know, I do know the way that I look is not who I am, but I have struggled with that. Dark brunette hair, red, but more red than it is now, kind of interwoven, so I mean, I have now. Just all up in this kind of a braided back, probably a mess of a cross between like a Victorian kind of outfit and a flapper and like a popper. I think that all those different looks have to do with like what's going on in my life now, you know, like at that time, and it can be my mood. So whatever I'm struggling to relearn, I can, you know, it's like I'm taking that other part of my identity and we're learning about it again. It's just, that makes me sound crazy, but I really don't care. I find it very useful. By the way, if you wonder, are you crazy, are you sane? It's all about functioning. Don't worry about being, are you crazy? If you talk to yourself, if you talk to spirits, if you function, if none of this stuff inhibits the way you function, then you're totally fine, because that's the most important thing. If you can go to work, you can pay your bills, you can commit to your obligations, then you are artistic and you are awesome. You're different. And that should not be changed just because it does not conform with standards. The problem becomes when a person can't function, and that is my real belief between, you know, the differences. And so I look really similar, just bigger hands, and darker skin, because I was Native American, and I mean, more muscular, like I could probably, well, yeah, I did. I would fight people, for various reasons. Fist fight people. I like to fight people in my last life a lot. Like violent fight people. But I mean that it probably has to do with being on the streets. So but I mean, like, I could, you know, I could really get in some damage, but not anymore. I don't go around punching people no more. That probably wouldn't work out for me, being considerably smaller, but it's just funny. And in my last life, yes, I used to do fortune telling, divination, tarot, things like this. You know, the older I got, the more I became a little bit more stable and had consistent food and things like that. I did turn you know, my attentions to these arts. But you know, when I was younger in my last life, I just was a street person, reserving comments and judgments as much as possible with that. So I wasn't anybody cool, you know what I'm saying? Like, everybody's like, hey, who were you in your last life? You were probably, you know, you want to be a prince or a king, a pop star, you know, Dracula. I don't think anybody wants to say, I am the reincarnation of a homeless person. I am the reincarnation of somebody who turned tricks to survive the Great Depression. And I'm the reincarnation of a drunk. I'm the reincarnation of a murderer. I don't, like, nobody's like, they, stand up at, like, some fucking AA meeting and say, like, but think about it. I mean, who has more reason to reincarnate and possibly remember it in such a pull? Because it wasn't oblivion. I think that if I think other people out there are like me, and they do remember this in this way. I really think other people remember it this way. But, it doesn't have to be such a solid identity, you know what I mean? When it comes down to it, I look very similar to the way I am now. Similar tastes, but it's really not important about what I look. The real way it manifests is like, if you're just drawn to something, man, I need to eat, in my case, it's mayonnaise. Mayonnaise right out of the jar. I'm no apologies. It's just something I feel compelled to do. I think that reincarnation is really like that. Just, or you might, just be totally have an aversion to being in water unless somebody's swimming with you, and that might have to do with the way you died. So that's not really imagining the way you look, in your last life, but it is just straight up bypassing that, and it's just your cravings. You're experiencing your cravings, because when you didn't have a body and that in-between time, cravings can't be satiated at all, and once you get your hands on a body and incarnate, it feels good to do things again. It feels good to even bad things, because it's real, so the astral plane is really just for dead people. It's just that's where they are, those different levels of existence, but there is no coming back. Like when you go to bed and you're asleep and you're off having some dream about going to Chuck E. Cheese or whatever, you're on the astral plane, except you go back to your body when you wake up. Dead people don't do that, and they attach themselves to living people, so that they can have access to a body to experience the momentary satiation of cravings. So whatever thing they've done that has made them out of karma, they want to feel that relief from. Even though it's really temporary, they do. So that's just it. That's the purpose of the Tibetan Book of the Dead, is preparing mentally for being dead. Meditation, the purpose of meditation, which everybody uses modernly for calming down, studying, having a better perception, those things are all great, absolutely. But the purpose that it originally served was to prepare the mind for death. Once all that's left of you is your mind and your ego, but you no longer have a body. It's a preparation for that. So that's why there's it's very important to maybe even see it that way, a little bit of the way I mentioned. I will link the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and then I did do a video about the different, I believe there's 6 different kinds of, or stages that a person goes through in Tibetan Buddhism through the reincarnation process, and I'll link that below if you're interested, because it does resonate with me. I'm interested in Buddhism and Hinduism a lot. And then I think the last person I'll mention is Spektor Baal. I'm going to link his channel. Now, I mentioned him because he talks a lot about astral projection. I came across him when he had like 500 subscribers and I might have had 50. but he does a lot of Goetia, and then there's a lot of inactive other channels, but you know, but he still does stuff on astral projection and the Goetia. And if these are your things, then go check them out. And then I'll link Black Magick Sorcerer, because he said, hey, let's talk about it. You know, so here it is, Black Magick Sorcerer. You know, you can do a video reply. Everybody else, you know, jump on, share a story, leave a comment, do a video reply. I'll watch it, you know, join the discussion. Now, I'm probably going to be off of doing these for a day or two. I'm going to catch up on a little bit of homework and then do a family day. But I think Friday, gosh, I don't know, what is today, Wednesday? Friday or Saturday, we'll see how it goes. But I'll let I'll let you guys know maybe ahead of time. We'll see. I want to do my first ever live stream, and I got to set up, you know, whatever, some stuff here on YouTube for that, and I've never done one, so it'll just be, I'm gonna jump on though for like 45 minutes, an hour, and hey, you know, I'll let you guys know ahead of time. When I mean, at the very least, since I don't know exactly how it works, I can edit and put the time in the description box, or do, you know, whatever, how else that's gonna work. But Friday or Saturday, I'm gonna do my first live stream and jump on for an hour. And that's about it. And I guess that pretty much wraps up some basic thoughts I had. I've had people go, you know, why would you do sometimes I do readings for people I'm really drawn to for free, but I think that it really is part of healing for me to reach out to people who I resonate with. This is not, I don't just want something with nothing in return. I want to put in work and effort into crafting Demonic Angel, and I need lots of practice on normal people, and I'm putting that in because I think it's like building a cabinet, or in a, you know, being a wood maker. The love and care is for, you know, the journey is the destination, building the project. So I do that from time to time. Not for everybody, obviously, because I definitely just straight up don't have time to do that. But eventually, you know, I'll make a whole ritual for hire type of thing, you know, where you can consult me and stuff like that. But, you know, that'll be at 1K. So, that was a long video and whatever, so I'll talk to you guys later.